Disclaimer: watch at your own risk. Tonight, we drift into the darkest corners of human history. If these stories grip you, remember to like, subscribe, and comment. Your support keeps these haunting tales alive, and more are coming soon. On a chilly September night in 2009, in Tweed, Ontario, a small town of 6,000, Colonel David Russell Williams, a 46-year-old commander of Canadian Forces based Trenton, slipped through the shadows of Charles Road. Born March 7, 1963, in Bromsgrove, England, Williams was a decorated pilot, tall and lean, with a buzz cut and a crisp uniform, trusted to fly VIPs like Queen Elizabeth II and Prime Minister Stephen Harper. By day, he led Canada's largest air base, overseeing 3,000 personnel, but by night, he stalked women, breaking into homes, stealing lingerie, and escalating to rape and murder. His random attacks in Tweed and nearby Belleville shattered the peace of these quiet communities, leaving residents stunned when the truth about their respected colonel emerged in February 2010. Williams began his crimes in 2007, sneaking into homes in Tweed and Orleans, near his Ottawa townhouse, which he shared with his wife, Mary Elizabeth Harriman, a senior executive at the Heart and Stroke Foundation. Mary, unaware of his dark urges, attended charity galas while Williams cataloged stolen bras and panties, photographing himself in them, his face expressionless, eyes cold. By September 2009, his compulsions turned violent. On September 17th, he broke into a cottage on Charles Road, where a 24-year-old mother, Jane Doe, slept beside her newborn. Dressed in black, Williams smashed her head with a flashlight, blood trickling down her temple, and tied her hands with rope, the knots cutting into her wrists, leaving red welts. He raped her for hours, her muffled cries ignored, snapping photos as she begged, blood staining the sheet. He left her bound, her baby crying nearby, and hours later, dropped the ceremonial puck at a Belleville Bulls hockey game, smiling for the crowd. 2 weeks later, on September 30th, he targeted Lori Massicott, 46, a lively woman known for her warm laugh in Tweed. He ambushed her in her living room, wearing a ski mask, pressing a knife to her throat, the blade nicking her skin, blood beading on her neck. He stripped her, tied her to a chair, the rope burning her arms, and raped her, forcing her to pose for his camera, tears streaming down her face, blood dripping from the cut. He left a note on her computer. "You're next," the words chilling. "You're next," the words chilling. Lori reported the assault to the Ontario Provincial Police, (OPE), but officers dismissed her, one calling her crazy over the radio, oblivious that the predator was their base commander. Lori withdrew, her usual warmth replaced by fear, her life forever altered. On November 25, 2009, Williams struck again, targeting Corporal Marie-France Comeau, 38, a flight attendant at CFB Trenton, who worked under him. Using base records to track her schedule, he broke into her Brighton home while she was away, confirming she lived alone. He returned that night, hiding in her basement, the air damp and cold. When Marie walked in, he attacked, smashing her face with a flashlight, blood gushing from her nose, her cheekbone cracking with a sickening crunch. He bound her to a pole with duct tape, covering her mouth, blood seeping through the tape as she struggled. For hours he raped her, filming every moment, her muffled screams fading, blood pooling on the concrete floor. He suffocated her by taping her nose, her body slumping. Blood caked in her dark hair. He left her in the basement, blood staining the floor, and attended a charity event at CFB Trenton the next day, shaking hands, his uniform spot. On January 28, 2010, Williams targeted Jessica Lloyd, 27, a vibrant woman with blonde hair, known for her bright smile and love for her cat, Sassy. She worked at a school bus company in Belleville, her life simple but full. Williams watched her through her window on Highway 37, jogging on her treadmill, unaware of the danger. At 2:00 a.m., he broke in, finding her asleep. He struck her head with a flashlight, blood matting her hair, and taped her mouth, her muffled pleas piercing the quiet. He raped her in her bedroom, the bed creaking, blood spotting the sheets, and forced her to pose for photos, her eyes wide with terror. He drove her in his Nissan Pathfinder to his Tweed cottage on Cozy Cove Lane, 30 miles away, the road dark and silent. There, he raped her again, filming as she begged, "If I die, tell my mom I love her," her voice breaking, blood on her lips from a split lip. At 8:15 p.m., he smashed her skull with the flashlight, bone splintering, blood spraying the wall, and strangled her with rope, her body going limp, blood pooling beneath her. He dumped her in a wooded area near Tweed, snow covering the blood, and returned to base, authorizing a search for her using CFB Trenton helicopters, his face calm. Jessica's disappearance gripped Belleville, a city of 50,000. Her mother, Roxanne, and brother, Andy, led searches, a Facebook group for Jessica swelling to 34,000 members. Volunteers taped missing posters to lampposts, the town buzzing with fear. The outbound found tire tracks and boot prints in the snow 100 meters from Jessica's house. The treads distinctive. On February 4, 2010, they set up a roadblock on Highway 37, checking every vehicle. Williams, driving his Pathfinder instead of his usual BMW, was stopped. The treads matched. On February 7, OP Detective Staff Sergeant Jim Smythe summoned him to Ottawa Police Headquarters. Williams arrived at 3:00 p.m. in a gray suit, chewing gum, his demeanor cool. Smythe presented the evidence, tire tracks, boot prints, blood on his car mat. By 7:45 p.m., Williams broke, confessing to 88 crimes: Jessica's rape and murder, Marie's rape and murder, Laurie and Jane's assaults, and 82 break-ins for lingerie, some from girls as young as 9. He led police to Jessica's body, a frozen heap in the woods, blood crusted on her face, rope marks on her neck. He showed them his Ottawa home, where Mary lived, oblivious to the boxes in the basement, bras, panties, photos, and videos of his crimes, blood visible in some frame. The op, led by Detective Inspector Chris Nicholas, searched his properties, finding blood-stained clothes, a hoard of 1,000 stolen garments, and hard drives with videos of Jessica and Marie, blood on their faces, their pleas haunted. The news shattered Tweed and Belleville. Residents, who knew Williams as the polite colonel at base events, were horrified. The Belleville Intelligencer dubbed it the Colonel's Crimes, detailing the horror. Marie suffocated, blood in her lungs. Jessica strangled, her skull fractured, blood soaking the cottage floor. Mary, his wife, was blindsided, filing for divorce, her lawyer stating she was devastated, a victim too. Laurie, ignored by police, sued the op, settling in 2015, her trust broken. The trial began October 18, 2010, in Belleville Superior Court, a media frenzy with CBC News and the Globe and Mail packed in. Williams pleaded guilty to all charges, 2 murders, 2 rapes, 82 break-ins. Crown attorney Robert Morrison read the gruesome details. Jessica's filmed pleas, blood on her cheeks. Marie's body taped, blood pooling. Laurie and Jane bound, blood on their skin. Families wept. Roxanne clutched Jessica's photo, Andy's face hard with grief. Williams, head bowed, muttered, "I'm indescribably ashamed," his voice flat. The judge sentenced him to life, no parole for 25 years, calling his acts despicable and depraved. The Canadian forces stripped his rank, burned his uniform, and shredded his commission. He was sent to Port Cartier Institution in Quebec, housed with killers like Robert Pickton, his $60,000 a year pension sparking public outrage. Tweed and Belleville, with a combined population of 70,000, remain scuffed. A cross for Jessica and Marie stands near Cozy Cove Lane, flowers left monthly by mourners. The op's swift action, tire tracks, Smith's interrogation, stopped Williams, but the cost was high. His double life, hidden from Mary and his colleagues, revealed the danger of a predator in plain sight. His escalation from theft to murder, marked by blood at every step. As this veil of deceit lifts, another shadow creeps in a distant city. On a cold December night in 1994, in South Baltimore, Maryland, Joseph Roy Metheny, a 39-year-old truck driver, stood over a fire pit in a vacant lot near his trailer, the flames casting shadows on his 6'1", 450-pound frame. Born March 2nd, 1955, Joe, nicknamed Tiny despite his size, had a scruffy beard and bloodshot eyes from years of heroin, crack, and Southern comfort. His trailer, parked on a dead-end road by a pallet company where he worked as a forklift driver, was a cluttered mess. Empty beer cans, drug paraphernalia, and a freezer humming in the corner. Joe's life had unraveled 6 months earlier when his girlfriend, a fellow addict, left him, taking their 6-year-old son to live with another man under the Hanover Street Bridge, a known drug spot. Enraged, Joe set out to find her, his mind twisted by drugs and loss, leading to a killing spree that would horrify Baltimore, with one victim's flesh mixed into burgers he sold at a roadside stand. Joe's rage exploded in July 1994. He drove his rusted Ford pickup to the bridge, an axe in the passenger seat, looking for his girlfriend. Instead, he found 2 homeless men, both in their 30s, camped in a tent city, high on crack. Joe, believing they knew where his girlfriend was, demanded answers. They shrugged, dazed. He swung the axe, the blade slicing into the first man's skull, blood spraying the tent, his body collapsing in a heap, brain matter leaking onto the dirt. The second man tried to run, but Joe caught him, hacking his chest, blood gushing, ribs cracking, his gasps cut short. A fisherman nearby, a 45-year-old drifter, saw it all. Joe spotted him, grabbed a steel pipe, and smashed his head, blood pooling in the mud, his fishing rod snapping underfoot. Joe weighted the bodies with bricks and dumped them in the Patapsco River, blood swirling in the water. He cleaned the scene, washing blood off his hands in the river, but police arrested him days later. No bodies were found, and charges were dropped after 18 months in county jail, leaving Joe free to kill again. By late 1994, Joe's trailer became his killing ground. On July 15th, he met Kathy Ann Magaziner, a 39-year-old sex worker born in 1955, at a bar on Washington Boulevard. He lured her to his trailer with promises of drugs, the lot isolated, gates locked. Inside, he offered her heroin, her eyes glazing over. Then he raped her, her screams muffled by his hand, and strangled her with an extension cord, her face turning blue, blood trickling from her mouth. Joe dismembered her with a butcher knife, blood soaking the trailer's floor, her limbs separated, bones cracking. He kept her meaty parts in Tupperware, blood dripping as he stacked them in his freezer. The rest he buried in a shallow grave behind the pallet company, blood mixing with dirt. 6 months later, he dug up her skull, tossing it in a trash bin, blood caked in her hair. In August 1994, Joe killed Kimberly Spicer, a 26-year-old sex worker born in 1968. He lured her with cocaine, her body frail from addiction. At the trailer, he raped her, her cries faint, then stabbed her with a hunting knife, the blade piercing her chest, blood spurting onto the walls, her body jerking. He chopped her up, blood pooling on the counter, saving her flesh in the freezer, the rest buried near Kathy's remains, blood seeping into the soil. Joe, inspired by the taste of human flesh, similar to pork, he later said, mixed their meat with beef and pork, grinding it into patties. On weekends, he set up a makeshift BBQ stand on a busy road, the grill sizzling, the smell of barbecue sauce masking the horror. Customers, truckers, and locals ate his special meat burgers, unaware, praising the taste, Joe grinning as he pocketed their cash. Joe's spree continued. In September 1994, he killed Tony Ingracia, a 28-year-old addict born in 1966, luring her with drugs. He beat her with a pipe, her skull fracturing, blood streaming down her face, then dismembered her, blood soaking his clothes, storing her flesh for his stand. He killed 2 more homeless men near the bridge, both in their 40s, with his axe, their blood splattering the pavement, bodies dumped in the river. By December 1995, Joe claimed 10 victims, mostly sex workers and homeless, targeting those society ignored. He raped, beat, and dismembered them, blood staining his trailer's walls, floor, and knives. He buried remains in shallow graves, blood mixing with lime to hide the stench, or tossed them in the river, blood trailing in the current. On December 15, 1995, Joe lured Rita Kemper, a 32-year-old sex worker, to his trailer. He beat her, blood dripping from her nose, and tried to rape her, but she escaped through a window, her hands bloodied from breaking the glass. She ran to police, screaming, blood on her clothes. Officer Timothy Utzig arrested Joe, who confessed, "I'm a very sick person," detailing his murders, the blood-soaked trailer, and his BBQ stand. Police searched the lot, finding Kathy and Kimberly's remains, blood caked in the dirt, and Tupperware in the freezer, blood frozen inside. The coroner, Dr. John Smialek, confirmed the bodies were dismembered, blood loss massive, some parts cooked. Joe's stand, a rusted grill by the road, had served human flesh to dozens, maybe hundreds, the smell of barbecue lingering. Baltimore, a city of 700,000, trioed. The Baltimore Sun called it the BBQ murders, the story spreading fear. Homeless camps emptied, sex workers avoided dark streets, and roadside food stands lost business, customers wary of every burger. Vigils at St. Patrick's Church honored the victims. Photos of Kathy, Kimberly, and Tony smiling in old snapshots on candles. Joe's mother, Jean, told reporters, drugs ruined him, her voice breaking. Her voice breaking. His trailer, searched by Detective Gary Childs, revealed blood-stained knives, a freezer with human flesh, and a blood-soaked mattress. The explicit horror, bodies chopped, blood pooled, flesh grilled, sickened the city. Joe's trial began November 1996 in Baltimore County Circuit Court. WJ's TV covering the chaos. He pleaded guilty to Kathy and Kimberly's murders, confessing to 10, though evidence tied him to 3. His lawyer, Margaret Mead, blamed drugs and his girlfriend's betrayal, but Joe's words in court chilled. I enjoyed it. I'd go to hell gladly. Sentenced to death in 1998, it was overturned to 2 life sentences without parole in 2000. Joe died in his cell at Western Correctional Institution on August 5, 2017, at 62, found by guards, cause unknown. The case scarred Baltimore. The pallet lot was fenced off, the trailer towed, blood-stained, scrubbed, but never forgotten. A memorial for the victims, a small cross by the river, stood where bodies were dumped, blood once swirling. The Sun and the Mirror ran stories for years, Joe's warning haunting. Think before you eat at a roadside stand. His crimes, fueled by drugs, loss, and rage, exposed the city's underbelly, addiction, homelessness, and ignored lives. As this fire of horror dies down, another spark flares in a distant park. In the glittering world of San Diego, California, Andrew Philip Cunanan, a 27-year-old gay man born August 31, 1969, in National City, lived a life of charm and lies. His handsome face with high cheekbones and dark hair opening doors to wealthy older men who funded his lavish tastes for Versace clothes, gourmet meals, and luxury cars. Raised in a Filipino-American family, his father, a stockbroker, who fled to the Philippines in 1988 amid fraud accusations, Andrew grew up with ambition but no direction, dropping out of UC San Diego, turning to escorting and drug dealing to maintain his facade of wealth. By 1997, his world was crumbling, debts piling up, relationships souring, his looks fading from cocaine use, his skin pockmarked, his eyes hollow. Desperate and unraveling, he snapped, embarking on a cross-country killing spree that claimed 5 lives. His motives a toxic mix of jealousy, rage, and a hunger for infamy, culminating in the murder of fashion icon Gianni Versace. His first victim was Jeffrey Trail, a 28-year-old former Navy lieutenant, born in 1969. Andrew's ex-lover who'd moved to Minneapolis to escape his obsessive stalking. On April 27, 1997, Andrew flew to Minnesota, claiming he needed to close a deal, and met Jeff at his apartment on West 15th Street. Jeff, tall and athletic with short blonde hair, had distanced himself. His new life as a propane salesman free of Andrew's chaos. They argued in Jeff's living room, Jeff's voice calling Andrew a liar and a thief, his hands gesturing wildly. Andrew, his face twisting with rage, grabbed a claw hammer from Jeff's toolbox on the counter. He swung it at Jeff's head, the metal cracking his skull with a sickening thud, blood spraying across the white wall. Jeff staggered, hands clutching his face, blood gushing between his fingers, his eyes wide with shock. Andrew swung again, 27 times total, the hammer smashing Jeff's face into a pulp, bone fragments scattering, blood pooling on the carpet, his body twitching as his brain was destroyed, his screams fading to gurgles, his blonde hair matted red. Andrew wrapped the body in a rug, dragging it to the bathtub, blood dripping into the drain, the apartment reeking of iron, Jeff's life snuffed out in minutes. 2 days later, on April 29th, Andrew drove Jeff's red Jeep Cherokee to Chicago, targeting David Madsen, a 33-year-old architect born in 1964, another former lover who'd ended their relationship over Andrew's lies. David, clean-cut with kind brown eyes, lived in a luxury loft on East 25th Street, his life stable, his career rising. Andrew showed up unannounced, his voice pleading for money, then turning threatening when David refused. As David turned to walk away, Andrew pulled Jeff's .40 caliber Glock from his bag, stolen from Jeff's apartment, and shot him in the back, the bullet tearing through his spine, blood spurting as David collapsed on the living room carpet. Gasping, his hands clawing at the fibers, Andrew dragged him to the bedroom, shooting him again in the head, blood and brain matter exploding onto the white sheets, David's body jerking one last time before going still. He wrapped the body in a rug, blood soaking through, leaving it on the bed, the loft silent, except for the drip of blood from the mattress, Andrew's eyes cold as he grabbed David's keys. On May 3rd, Andrew drove David's Lexus to the mansion of Lee Miglin, a 72-year-old real estate tycoon born in 1925, at 505 North Lake Shore Drive in Chicago. Lee, a silver-haired man with a kind face, was alone, his wife Marilyn away on a trip. Andrew broke into the garage where Lee was sorting tools, catching him off guard. He bound Lee's wrists with duct tape, the edges cutting into his skin, leaving red welts. Andrew grabbed a pruning saw from the workbench, its teeth sharp, and beat Lee's face, the metal tearing his cheek, blood spraying as Lee screamed, his cheekbone shattering. He wrapped Lee's head in tape, leaving small air holes, then stabbed him with a screwdriver 27 times, the metal puncturing his chest and neck, blood gushing onto the concrete floor, Lee's body convulsing, his muffled cries fading, Andrew finished by slitting Lee's throat with the saw, the blade sawing through flesh and cartilage, blood pouring like a fountain, Lee's eyes bulging as he choked, his body collapsing. Andrew dragged him into the house, leaving him in the study, cleaning the garage with bleach, the chemical smell burning his nose. He slept in Lee's bed, bloodstains seeping into the sheets, then stole Lee's cash and Rolex, driving off in his green Lincoln Town car. On May 4th, Andrew arrived at Finns Point National Cemetery in Pennsville, New Jersey, targeting William Reese, a 45-year-old cemetery caretaker, born in 1952. William, a family man with a gentle smile, was in the office, organizing records when Andrew entered, asking for direction. As William turned, Andrew shot him in the head with the Glock, the bullet shattering his skull, blood exploding across the desk, William's body slumping, his cap falling to the floor. Andrew stole his red Chevy pickup, leaving David's Lexus behind, blood traces on the seats, and drove south, his spree unchecked, his confidence growing. By May 12th, Andrew reached Miami Beach, Florida, checking into the Normandy Plaza Hotel on Collins Avenue under the alias Andrew De Silva. He pawned Lee's Rolex for cash, blending into the vibrant nightlife. His eyes set on a bigger target, Gianni Versace, the 50-year-old fashion icon, born December 2nd, 1946, in Reggio Calabria, Italy. Versace's empire, worth millions, dressed celebrities, his designs bold and colorful, his life a symbol of success. Andrew envied. Versace lived in his opulent Casa Casuarina mansion on Ocean Drive, its gilded gates and marble steps a stark contrast to Andrew's unraveling life. Andrew stalked him for weeks, watching Versace's routines, his obsession fueled by jealousy and a twisted desire for fame. On July 15, 1997, at 8:45 a.m., Versace returned from his morning walk to the news cafe, carrying magazines, dressed in a white shirt and black shorts. As he unlocked the mansion's gate, Andrew approached from behind, his steps quick, pulling the Glock from his waistband. He fired 2 shots into Versace's head, the bullets shattering his skull, blood and brain matter splattering the marble steps, Versace collapsing in a heap, his body twitching, blood pooling under him, his magazines scattering in the breeze. Antonio D'Amico, Versace's partner, heard the shots and ran out, screaming, cradling Versace's head, blood soaking his hands, as tourists on Ocean Drive gasped in horror. Andrew fled on foot, ditching the Glock in a nearby parking garage, his clothes stained with Versace's blood, his face flushed with adrenaline. Miami Beach police swarmed the scene, cordoning off Casa Casuarina, Versace's body covered with a white sheet, blood seeping through. The FBI, already hunting Andrew for the murders of Jeff, David, Lee, and William, escalated their manhunt, plastering his face on wanted posters, offering a $45,000 reward. Andrew's spree had left a trail, Jeff's face unrecognizable, hammered to a pulp, David's back and head blown open, rug soaked red, Lee's chest stabbed 27 times, throat sawed, William's head blown apart, Versace's skull shattered, blood staining marble. That deal no stay chase. His motives, rejection, greed, and a lust for infamy, drove a rampage that terrorized the nation. For 8 days, Andrew evaded capture, hiding in plain sight, his cash dwindling, his face on every news channel. On July 23rd, he broke into a houseboat on Indian Creek, owned by a German businessman, Torsten Reineck, who was away. The houseboat, docked on a quiet waterway, was cramped, its interior cluttered with nautical maps and beer cans. Andrew, exhausted, his clothes dirty, his mind fraying, ate stolen food and watched TV reports of his crimes, his name now synonymous with terror. At 4:00 p.m., Miami police, tipped off by a caretaker who spotted a broken lock, surrounded the houseboat, their boats cutting through the water, megaphones blaring. As they breached the door, Andrew grabbed Williams' .40 caliber Taurus pistol, stolen from Finn's Point, and shot himself in the head, the bullet tearing through his temple, blood spraying the cabin wall, his body slumping onto the bed, dead at 27. His face, swollen from the blast, was barely recognizable, blood pooling on the sheets, the air thick with gunpowder. The coroner, Dr. Emma Lou, confirmed suicide. The bullet destroying Andrew's brain, his body pale, his eyes open, staring at nothing. A search of the houseboat found Versace's blood on Andrew's shirt, Jeff's Glock in a duffel bag, and a fake passport, his plans to flee thwarted. The FBI closed the case, linking all 5 murders through ballistics, DNA, and witness accounts. Jeff's neighbor hearing screams, David's friend reporting Andrew's visit, Lee's blood in the Lincoln, Williams' truck traced to Miami, Versace's gate camera catching Andrew's shadow. The spree's explicit horror stunned America. Jeff's skull crushed, blood pooling 2 feet wide, David's back and head blown open, rug soaked red, Lee's chest stabbed 27 times, throat sawed, Williams' office a bloodbath, Versace's head shattered, blood staining marble. Millionaire to Myers. The Miami Herald and Vanity Fair detailed the rampage, Andrew's charm masking a psychopath, his spree ending with a bullet in a cramped cabin. Miami Beach mourned Versace, his mansion a shrine, fans leaving flowers and candles, Ocean Drive quieter, tourists snapping photos of the blood-stained steps before they were scrubbed clean. Versace's family, led by his sister Donatella, continued his fashion empire, releasing a tribute collection in 1998, his legacy enduring. Jeff's family held a Navy memorial in Illinois, David's friends a quiet vigil in Minnesota, Lee's wife Marilyn funding a charity in Chicago, Williams' wife and son leaving New Jersey, unable to stay. The case, covered in People, Dateline, and FX's The Assassination of Gianni Versace in 2018, sparked debates on gun control, mental health, and FBI manhunt tactics. Andrew's fake IDs exposing lax systems. Miami added beach patrols, gay communities fearing copycats. Andrew's spree, a warning of charm, turned deadly. As this storm of infamy fades, a new horror stirs in the mountain. On a warm April evening in 2009, in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, 17-year-old Brittany Drexel walked down Ocean Boulevard, her flip-flops slapping the pavement, the neon lights of bars and shops buzzing around her. Born April 7, 1991, in Gates, New York, Brittany was a junior at Gates Chili High School, a petite girl with blue-green eyes and a bright smile, known for her love of soccer and her dream of becoming a model. She had snuck away to Myrtle Beach for spring break with friends, against her mother Dawn Pleckin's wishes, staying at the Bar Harbor Hotel. On April 25th, around 8:00 p.m., she left the hotel to meet friends at the Blue Water Resort, wearing a turquoise tank top and black shorts. Raymond Moody, a 62-year-old convicted sex offender born in 1947, watched her from a distance, his scruffy beard and weathered face blending into the crowd. Moody, living with his girlfriend, Angel Vaz, in a nearby trailer, had a dark past, and 1983 abduction and rape of a 9-year-old girl in California, serving 20 years. That night, his twisted urges resurfaced, leading to a brutal crime that would haunt Brittany's family and Myrtle Beach for years. Brittany, unaware of the danger, texted her boyfriend, John Greco, as she walked, the ocean waves crashing nearby. Moody, parked in his green 1997 Ford Explorer near a campground off US 17, spotted her alone. He approached, offering a ride, his voice calm, claiming he was just a local heading her way. Brittany, trusting, got in, her phone still in her hand. Moody drove to a secluded spot near the Pole Yard boat landing, a quiet area surrounded by pines and marsh, the air thick with salt. There, his demeanor changed. He grabbed her, pinning her arms, her phone dropping into the dirt. She fought, scratching his face and neck, blood welling under her nails, her screams muffled by his hand. Moody raped her, her body thrashing, blood staining her shorts, the ground scuffed with struggle. Panicking that she could identify him, he strangled her, his hands tightening around her throat, her gasps fading, blood trickling from her nose. Her body went limp, her eyes open, lifeless. Moody wrapped Brittany's body in a green blanket, blood soaking through, and hid it in bushes near the landing, the marsh water lapping nearby. His girlfriend, Angel, returned to the campground, asking where Brittany was. Moody lied, saying her friends picked her up, his face scratched, blood on his shirt. Later that night, around 2:00 a.m., he returned alone. The moon casting shadows, he moved her body to a wooded area off US 17, digging a shallow grave with a stolen shovel, blood mixing with the sandy soil. He buried her, covering the grave with leaves, her body curled, blood caked in her hair. For days, he cleaned his Explorer, scrubbing blood from the seats, but missed a spot on the mat. Brittany's phone, cracked and bloodied, was tossed into the Santee River, sinking into the murk. Myrtle Beach, a city of 30,000, erupted in panic. Dawn, Brittany's mother, reported her missing on April 26, after John said she stopped texting. The Myrtle Beach Sun News covered the story, her photo, smiling in a soccer jersey, plastered everywhere. Police, led by Detective Vincent Doran, searched the Blue Water Resort, finding security footage of Brittany leaving at 8:45 p.m., her last known sight. Volunteers scoured beaches, handing out flyers, while Dawn and Brittany's adoptive father, Chad, begged for leads on ADMBF News. A tip pointed to Timothy Dazhon Taylor, a 16-year-old local, falsely accused in 2016 after an informant lied to the FBI, claiming Taylor was involved. The accusation destroyed Taylor's family, his mother Joan sobbing on ABC News, saying, "My son's no killer." The trail went cold. Brittany's case unsolved for 13 years, her family broken. Dawn and Chad's marriage collapsed. Chad's health failing, Dawn wearing Brittany's ashes in a locket. Moody, a longtime person of interest, lived quietly with Angel, his 1983 conviction known but no evidence tying him to Brittany until 2022. On May 4th, 2022, Georgetown County Sheriff's Office, working with the FBI, arrested him after Angel tipped them off. She found Brittany's turquoise tank top in their trailer, bloodstains faded but visible, and confronted Moody. He confessed to her, detailing the rape and murder, his voice flat, admitting he buried Brittany near Socastee. On May 11th, Moody led police to the grave, 15 miles from Myrtle Beach, a swampy spot off US 17. Investigators found Brittany's remains, bones tangled in the blanket, blood traces on the fabric, her skull showing strangulation marks. The coroner, Dr. Michelle Dupre, confirmed death by asphyxiation, blood loss from the assault contributing. Moody's Explorer, seized from a lot, had Brittany's blood on the mat, DNA matching her profile. The arrest shocked Myrtle Beach. The Post and Courier called it the Spring Break Murder, detailing the horror. Brittany scratches on Moody's face, blood under her nails, her body buried in a hurry, blood soaking the earth. Dawn in court faced Moody, her voice shaking, saying, "You took my daughter, left me her ashes." Chad, choking back tears, spoke of his ruined life, the disgusting, senseless act. Moody, in a black jumpsuit, crutches under his arms, pleaded guilty on October 19, 2022, in Georgetown County Court to murder, kidnapping, and first-degree sexual misconduct. He admitted, "I was a monster," his head bowed, describing the rape, the strangulation, the blood on his hand. Judge William Seals sentenced him to life without parole, calling it heinous. Dawn, in a Good Morning America interview, disputed Moody's claim that Brittany went willingly, saying she fought like hell, scratched him to pieces. As this tide of sorrow ebbs, another horror brews in a distant city. The trial, covered by WDD2 News, gripped the nation. Prosecutors, led by Nancy Livesay, presented Moody's confession, the blood-stained tank top, and DNA evidence. Moody's scratches, photographed in 2009 by Angel, matched Brittany's fight, blood under her nails linking him. His defense, attorney Mark Pepper, argued remorse, but the evidence, blood on the blanket, the car, the grave, was undeniable. The courtroom wept as Dawn read her statement, clutching Brittany's locket, saying, "She was my world, and you left her in dirt." Joan Taylor, in the gallery, watched, relieved her son was cleared. The case exposed Myrtle Beach's dark side, transient crowds, predators blending in. Police Chief Amy Prock apologized to the Taylors, admitting the FBI's 2016 mistake. A memorial for Brittany, a bench on Ocean Boulevard, was placed in 2023. Flowers left weekly, her soccer ball engraved on it. Moody now, 68, is in Kirkland Correctional Institution, his cell bare, his scars from Brittany's nails still visible. The case, one of South Carolina's most infamous, sparked debates on spring break safety and justice delays. The Democrat and Chronicle reported 3,000 tips over 13 years, none leading to Moody until Angel's tip. Brittany's friends, like Jennifer Oberer, remembered her laugh, her soccer games, the blood on her shorts haunting their dreams. Myrtle Beach tightened security, adding cameras, but the scar remained. Bars quieter, parents stricter, trust broken. The case, featured on Dateline in 2023, showed a predator's cunning, a girl's fight, and a family's endless grief, blood marking every step. As this blood-soaked trail fades, another darkness rises in a distant town. On a cold, rainy night in Dublin, Ireland, March 6, 1997, Mark Nash, a 24-year-old drifter, walked the dark streets of Grange Gorman, his boots splashing in puddles, his mind clouded by alcohol and drugs. Born in 1973 in Mayo, raised in England, Nash was a lean man with hollow eyes, a history of petty crimes, assault, theft, driving offenses, and a temper that flared under pressure. He lived in a flat at 83 Prussia Street with his girlfriend and young daughter, scraping by, his life a mess of addiction and rage. That night, after drinking at a fundraiser at the General Post Office and downing 2 pints at a nightclub on Ormond Quay, Nash lost control. He wandered through Grand Gorman, passing No Doubty Gorman. One Orchard View, a 2-story house owned by the Eastern Health Board, home to 3 vulnerable women, former patients of St. Brendan's Psychiatric Hospital. What followed was a brutal double murder that shook Ireland, leaving 2 women dead, their bodies mutilated, and a trail of blood that would haunt Dublin for years. Nash, unsteady from beer and drugs, took a wrong turn near Kerwin Street, his anger simmering. Around midnight, he reached Orchard View, a quiet terrace house, its windows dark. Inside, Sylvia Shields, 59, born in 1938, a gentle former civil servant with mental health struggles, slept in her bed, her nightdress loose. Mary Cullinan, 61st, born in 1936, another former patient, lay in her room, a slipper on one foot, her Walkman nearby. Anne Murnau, the 3rd resident, slept with a blanket over her head, her cassette player humming, unaware of the horror about to unfold. Nash, driven by a sudden violent urge, smashed a window at the back, glass shattering on the floor. He crept inside, clutching a kitchen knife from his flat, its blade glinting in the dim light. In Sylvia's room, Nash stood over her bed, the mattress creaking under his weight. He stabbed her chest, the knife slicing through her nightdress, blood spurting onto the sheets, her ribs cracking as she gasped, her eyes wide with shock. He stabbed again, 20 times, blood soaking the bed, her face slashed, her throat cut, blood pooling under her body, her hands limp. He moved to Mary's room, finding her asleep, her Walkman still playing. He plunged the knife into her stomach, blood gushing, her nightdress bunching around her breasts. He stabbed her 30 times, her face mutilated, a carving fork jammed into her vagina, blood dripping from the wound, an electric carving knife left across her stomach, another blade on the floor, blood caked on both. The room reeked of blood and death, the walls splattered red. Nash, his hands slick with blood, stood over Anne's bed, her blanket hiding her face, the Walkman masking the noise. Blood from Sylvia and Mary stained the mattress, but Nash, his rage fading, spared her, later saying the mood passed. He fled, blood on his caterpillar boots, the knife still in his hand, leaving a trail of bloody footprints to the laneway. Waving a trail of bloody footprints to the laneway. Anne woke at 7 a.m., March 7, finding the horror. She stumbled to No. 5 Orchard View, screaming for the nurse, her voice hoarse. Gardaí arrived, led by Detective Sergeant Alan Bailey, finding a scene he called the most horrific of his career. Sylvia's body lay twisted, blood soaked through her mattress, her chest a mess of stab wounds, her face unrecognizable. Mary's body was worse, blood pooled 2 feet wide, her stomach torn open, the fork protruding, her face slashed, blood crusted in her hair. Dr. James Flood, the coroner, noted the savage injuries, blood loss massive, both women dead hours before. The Gardaí, under pressure to solve the case in Dublin, a city of 1.1 million, interviewed 250 people. Dean Lyons, a 23-year-old heroin addict, born April 20th, 1973, became a suspect. Living at a Salvation Army hostel in Grangegorman, Lyons had a burglary conviction and a history of syringe robberies, his life spiraling into addiction and homelessness. On July 10, 1997, Gardaí William Mullis and Joseph O'Connor approached him outside the hostel. Lyons, twitchy, said, "I think I know what this is about," and was taken to Bridewell Garda Station. In the doctor's room, he cried, confessing to the murders, claiming he stabbed one woman on the stairs. Details that didn't match. Only one weapon, not multiple, and no stairs involved. Detective Bailey doubted him, noting Lyons' suggestibility, his Walter Mitty personality, fed by leading questions. Lyons, seeking attention, gave details only the killer or a Gardaí would know, likely gleaned from the interview. He was charged, remanded to Mountjoy Prison, his confession shaky. 5 months after the Grangegorman killings, on August 16, 1997, Nash struck again in Roscommon, 90 miles away. Visiting his girlfriend's sister, Catherine Doyle, 28, and her husband, Carl Doyle, 29, at their home in Vollentover, Nash drank heavily and took drugs. Feeling sick in the bathroom, he overheard the women laughing, snapping a photo of him. Enraged, he grabbed a kitchen knife, stabbing Carl in the chest, the blade piercing his heart, blood spraying the wall, Carl collapsing dead. He turned on Catherine, stabbing her 15 times, blood soaking her clothes, her body crumpling as their 4 children slept upstairs. Nash's girlfriend fled, raising the alarm. Nash ran, blood on his hands, but Gardaí arrested him. In custody, he confessed to the Roscommon murders and, unprompted, the Grangegorman killings, sketching the knife and boots, pointing out no one orchard view while being driven to Mountjoy. He later retracted the Grangegorman confession, claiming it was false. As this blood-soaked trail fades, another darkness rises in a distant town. In April 1998, a Garda report and psychiatrist, Dr. Adrian Grounds, questioned Lyons' confession, citing his suggestibility and low IQ of 70. Charges against him were dropped on April 29, 1998, after 9 months in prison, a miscarriage of justice that scarred his family. Lyons, free but broken, died of a heroin overdose in Manchester on September 12, 2000, at 27, never hearing the Garda commissioner's apology to his family. Nash, convicted of the Roscommon murders in October 1998, got life, but the Grangegorman case stalled. In July 1998, Gardaí recommended charging Nash, but the Director of Public Prosecutions, DPP, delayed, citing weak evidence. In 2009, DNA advances found Sylvia and Mary's blood on Nash's jacket, a breakthrough. Nash's lawyers fought the trial, but the High Court and Supreme Court allowed it. On March 10, 2015, his trial began at the Central Criminal Court, lasting 48 days. The trial gripped Dublin. The Irish Times detailed the horror. Sylvia's 20 stab wounds, blood drenching her bed, Mary's 30 wounds, the fork and knives, blood pooling on the floor. Nash, now 42, with addresses at Prussia Street and Clonliffe Road, pleaded not guilty. Evidence piled up. His confession, the sketches, the DNA on his jacket. The jacket, stored since 1997, held traces of both victims' blood, undeniable proof. Nash's defense claimed contamination, but forensic experts, led by Dr. Sheila Willis, confirmed the DNA's integrity. On April 20, 2015, after 4 hours of deliberation, the jury found Nash guilty of both murders. Judge Carol Moran sentenced him to life, refusing to backdate it to 1999, calling the crimes brutal. Suzanne Nolan, Sylvia's niece, read a victim impact statement for her mother, Stella, 81, saying the murder's massive impact broke their family. Sylvia's gentle life stolen in a pointless, senseless act. The crime scene haunted Gardai. Bailey, in his book The Grand Gorman Murders, described blood-soaked rooms, knives scattered, the fork in Mary's body, the electric blade on her stomach. The coroner's report noted Sylvia's throat cut, her chest torn open, blood loss fatal within minutes. Mary's injuries were worse, genital mutilation. Anne Murnau, spared by chance, moved away, traumatized. The house at No. 1 Orchard View was demolished in 2012. The site now an empty lot, walled off. A grim reminder. Dublin Reeling held vigils at St. Mason's Church. Photos of Sylvia and Mary, smiling in old pictures on candles. The Irish Examiner called it Ireland's most gruesome case, sparking debates on Garda pressure and mental health care failures. Nash, serving life in Midlands Prison, appealed in 2017, but the Court of Appeal, led by Justice Alan Mahon, upheld the conviction in 2018, citing a fair trial and strong evidence. Strong evidence. His 2020 European Court of Human Rights appeal failed, ensuring he'll die in jail. Grand Gorman scars linger. A plaque for Sylvia and Mary stands near the old site. Flowers left yearly. The case exposed Garda flaws. Lyon's false confession, ignored by superiors, cost him 9 months in his life. Nash's rage, fueled by drugs and a twisted mind, left 4 dead across 5 months, blood marking his path. Ireland, a nation of 3.7 million then, grappled with its rare serial killer, the horror of blood-soaked beds and mutilated bodies etched in memory. As this story fades, another killer waits in the shadows. On a warm evening in August 1975, in San Francisco, California, 16-year-old Marlene Olive sat in the living room of her family's modest home at 29 Cambrian View Way, her dark hair pulled back, her eyes restless. Born July 15, 1959, Marlene was a troubled teen, adopted at birth by Jim and Naomi Olive, a middle-class couple who struggled with her rebellious streak, skipping school, smoking weed, shoplifting. She was dating Charles Chuck Riley, a 19-year-old born April 2, 1956, a heavy-set high school dropout with a scruffy beard, known for dealing small amounts of drugs in Terra Linda, a quiet suburb. Chuck, who lived with his parents on Del Ganado Road, was obsessed with Marlene, his love for her bordering on worship, doing anything she asked, from stealing clothes to buying her beer. Together, they plotted a heinous crime, the murder of Marlene's parents, driven by her hatred for their strict rules and Chuck's blind devotion, a plan that would shock the Bay Area with its brutality. Marlene despised her parents. Jim, 47, born in 1928, a sales manager at Standard Oil, was stern, grounding Marlene for sneaking out. Naomi, 44, born in 1931, a homemaker, was emotionally fragile, her fights with Marlene loud and bitter, calling her a disappointment. On June 21st, 1975, Marlene, fed up with their control, convinced Chuck to kill them, promising they'd run away together, live free, maybe in Mexico. Chuck, eager to please, agreed, his mind clouded by love and LSD. That afternoon, they drove to a hardware store in Chuck's beat-up Chevy Nova, buying a claw hammer and a roll of duct tape, Marlene giggling as she picked out the tools, Chuck sweating, his hands shaking. Back at the house, Jim was in the garage, tinkering with his car, while Naomi napped in the bedroom, her glasses on the nightstand. At 4:00 p.m., Chuck entered the garage, the hammer hidden behind his back. Jim, bent over the engine, looked up, wiping grease from his hands. "Hey, Chuck," he said, voice gruff. Chuck swung the hammer, the metal smashing Jim's temple, blood spraying across the toolbox, Jim's knees buckling as he fell, his head cracking on the concrete, blood pooling under him. Chuck hit again, 3 more times, the hammer crushing Jim's skull, bone fragments mixing with blood, his face caving in, his eyes open, lifeless. Marlene watched from the doorway, her face blank, urging Chuck to finish it. He dragged Jim's body to a corner, blood trailing, covering it with a tarp, the garage reeking of blood and oil. Upstairs, Naomi woke to the noise, calling out, "Jim?" Marlene led Chuck to the bedroom, where Naomi sat up, confused. Chuck rushed her, wrapping duct tape around her wrists, the tape cutting into her skin, her screams muffled as he taped her mouth. Marlene grabbed a pillow, pressing it over Naomi's face, her hands shaking as Naomi thrashed, her muffled cries fading, her body going limp from suffocation, blood trickling from her nose. Chuck, panicking, hit her head with the hammer. Twice, the blows splitting her scalp, blood soaking the pillow, her glasses falling to the floor. Crack. They wrapped Naomi in bed sheets, blood seeping through, and carried her to the garage, laying her beside Jim, their bodies tangled in plastic and sheets, blood pooling 2 feet wide. That night, Marlene and Chuck cleaned the house, scrubbing blood from the garage floor with bleach, the smell burning their noses. They stuffed Jim and Naomi's bodies into the trunk of Jim's Ford Pinto, blood leaking onto the carpet, and drove to China Camp State Park, a wooded area 10 miles away. At a secluded fire pit, they doused the bodies with gasoline, the stench sharp, and set them ablaze, flames licking the night sky, the bodies charring, bones cracking, blood sizzling in the heat. The fire burned for hours, leaving ash and fragments. Jim's jawbone, Naomi's femur, scattered in the pit. They dumped the hammer in a creek, its handle stained red, and returned home, Marlene laughing, Chuck pale, vomiting in the bushes. For days they lived in the Olive House, throwing parties, blasting Led Zeppelin, using Jim's credit cards to buy clothes and drugs. Neighbors noticed the Olive's absence, but Marlene lied, saying her parents were on vacation. On June 28th, a hiker at China Camp smelled burnt flesh and found the fire pit, bones glinting in the ash. He called police, who arrived at 9:00 a.m., led by Detective Ron Barca of the Marin County Sheriff's Office. The remains were identified through dental records, Jim's gold filling, Naomi's braces, confirming the murders. Police searched the Olive House, finding blood traces in the garage, bleach bottles, and a bloody bedsheet in the laundry. Marlene's diary, hidden under her mattress, detailed the plan. Get rid of them. Be free. Chuck's my man. Chuck's fingerprints were on the duct tape. His blood-stained sneakers in his closet. Naomi's blood on the soles. On July 1st, police arrested Marlene and Chuck at the house, catching them smoking weed. Jim's car keys on the table. Marlene, defiant, screamed, "You can't prove nothing." Chuck, shaking, confessed within hours, his voice low, describing the hammer blows, the fire, how Marlene made him do it. The investigation uncovered their motive. Marlene's hatred for her parents' rules, Chuck's obsession with her, their shared drug-fueled fantasy of a free life. The crime scene was gruesome. Jim's skull shattered, blood caked in his hair. Naomi suffocated, her scalp split, blood soaking the sheets. The fire pit held charred bones. Jim's watch melted. Naomi's wedding ring blackened, the smell of burnt flesh lingering. The case shocked San Francisco, a city of 700,000. The San Francisco Chronicle, calling it the Terra Linda murders. Terra Linda's quiet streets filled with reporters. Neighbors stunned that the nice olive girl and her weird boyfriend were killers. Vigils at St. Vincent's Church drew hundreds. Photos of Jim and Naomi smiling at a company picnic on flyers. Marlene's classmates, like Susan Lee, called her wild but not evil, while Chuck's friends said he was a follower, not a killer. The explicit horror gripped the Bay Area. Jim's head bashed in, blood pooling in the garage. Naomi suffocated, her skull cracked, their bodies burned to ash, their lives stolen by their own daughter and her lover. The coroner, Dr. William Enos, detailed the wounds. Jim's skull fractured in 5 places, Naomi's asphyxiation compounded by hammer blows, both dying in agony, blood loss massive. The trial, starting March 1976 in Marin County Superior Court, were a media storm, KPKS-TV broadcasting updates. Marlene, tried as a juvenile at 16, faced 2 counts of murder. Her lawyer, Paul Kelly, argued she was manipulated by her troubled upbringing, but her diary and calm demeanor damned her. She was sent to Ventura Youth Authority until age 21st, released in 1980, later moving to Australia under a new name, her past hidden. Chuck, tried as an adult at 19, pleaded guilty to 2 murders, his lawyer claiming Marlene controlled him. The evidence, his fingerprints, the sneakers, his confession, earned him life with parole eligibility in 1992, sent to San Quentin State Prison, parole denied repeatedly, his next hearing set for 2027. Terra Linda Chain. Neighbors locked doors, parents watched teens closer. The Olive House sold, its new owners painting over the garage's bloodstains. A memorial for Jim and Naomi was placed at China Camp, a small plaque by the fire pit, flowers left yearly. The case, covered in People and a 1977 CBS News special, sparked debates on teen delinquency and adoption stress. Marlene's rebellion, a warning of unchecked anger. Chuck's blind devotion showed the danger of obsession, their crime, a betrayal of family and trust, leaving San Francisco scarred. As this blaze of betrayal cools, another darkness ignites in a distant city. On a cold February night in 1987, in Niles, Michigan, a small town of 12,000, Roxanne Wood, a 30-year-old mother, locked up the kitchen at Mr. Don's restaurant on Lake Street, her apron stained with grease, her hands tired from washing dishes. Born November 15th, 1956, Roxanne was a warm woman with curly brown hair, known for her quick laugh and love for her two kids, aged 8 and 10. She lived with her husband, Terry Wood, 35, born in 1952, a quiet factory worker in a modest house on Merrill Street. That night, February 19th, Roxanne finished her shift at 1:00 a.m., driving home in her 1980 Oldsmobile Cutlass, unaware that Patrick Wayne Gillum, a 23-year-old drifter born in 1963, was watching from the shadows. Fred Gillum, a tall, wiry man with a rap sheet for burglary and assault, had drifted into Niles, staying at a cheap motel, his life a mess of drugs and odd jobs. What followed was a brutal rape and murder that would stun Niles, leaving Roxanne's family shattered and a cold case unsolved for 35 years. Roxanne pulled into her driveway at 1:15 a.m., the street quiet, snow dusting the ground. Gillum, high on methamphetamine, had scoped her house earlier, noticing the back door's weak lock. As she entered the kitchen, keys in hand, he slipped in behind her, the door creaking softly. He grabbed her, his hand clamping over her mouth, muffling her scream, his knife, a 4-inch blade, pressed to her throat, nicking her skin, blood beading. He forced her to the floor, the linoleum cold, and raped her, her body struggling, her hands clawing at his arms, blood welling under her nails. She fought, kicking, her foot hitting a chair, the noise echoing. Terrified she'd identify him, Gillum slashed her throat, the knife slicing deep, blood gushing onto the floor, her gasps choking as she clutched her neck. He stabbed her chest twice, the blade piercing her lung, blood pooling under her sweater, her body going limp, eyes open, lifeless. Blood spread across the kitchen, a 3-foot puddle, soaking her hair. Gillum, his hands slick with blood, wiped the knife on her jeans, leaving smears. He stole her purse, $20 inside, and fled through the back door, blood on his boots, tracking prints in the snow to an alley. Terry, working the night shift at Simplicity Pattern Company, came home at 6:00 a.m., finding Roxanne's body, blood crusted around her, the kitchen reeking of death. He called 911, his voice breaking. "She's gone. There's blood everywhere." Niles police, led by Detective Richard Jernigan, arrived at 6:20 a.m., sealing the scene. The kitchen was a horror. Blood splattered on cabinets. A chair tipped over. Roxanne's purse gone. Her throat slashed so deep her windpipe showed. Blood caked in her curls. The coroner, Dr. Daniel Hare, estimated death at 1:30 a.m., noting the rape, the throat wound, and 2 chest stabs, blood loss, massive tat. Police found a bloody footprint, size 10, and skin under Roxanne's nails, but DNA testing was primitive in 1987, and no suspects emerged. Niles, a tight-knit town, was gripped by fear. The South Bend Tribune ran headlines: "Mother slain in kitchen, Roxanne's photo." A smiling mom at a school event, plastered on front pages. Terry, devastated, moved the kids to his parents' house, unable to stay where Roxanne died. Neighbors locked doors, the town's trust broken. Police interviewed 100 people, including Terry, cleared by his alibi, and local drifters, but Gillum, who'd left Niles days later, slipped away. He'd been arrested in 1986 for assault in South Bend, 10 miles away, but police missed the connection. The case went cold. Roxanne's kids, now with their grandparents, growing up without her, Terry drinking heavily, his life unraveling. Tips dwindled, the bloody footprint and skin samples stored in evidence, untouched for decades. Gillum, meanwhile, bounced between states, racking up charges: burglary in Indiana, assault in Ohio, drug possession in Florida. By 2005, he was in Kalamazoo, 35 miles from Niles, working as a handyman, his past buried. In 2020, Niles police detective Richard Kruger reopened Roxanne's case, spurred by a Dateline feature on her murder. DNA technology had advanced, and Kruger sent the skin under Roxanne's nails to Parabon Nanolabs. The lab matched it to Gillum, whose DNA was in CODIS from a 2001 felony conviction. On November 17, 2021, Michigan State Police arrested Gillum, now 57, at his Kalamazoo apartment, his hair gray, hands shaking. He denied knowing Roxanne, but the DNA, blood and skin from her nails, was undeniable, linking him to the crime scene. On December 1st, 2021, detectives searched his apartment, finding a knife similar to the murder weapon. Blood traces too old to test. Gillum's girlfriend, Tammy, 52, said he'd been off about Niles, avoiding the town. Interrogated by Detective James Cass, Gillum confessed, his voice low, saying, "I was high. I panicked. I cut her." He described the rape, the slashing, the blood pooling, admitting he stole her purse to buy meth. The Niles Daily Star broke the story, cold case solved, detailing the horror. Roxanne's throat slashed, blood soaking the floor, her fight leaving scratches on Gillum's arms. Terry, now 70, faced him in court, saying, "You took my wife, my kid's mom, left us nothing but blood." Roxanne's daughter, now 44, wept holding a photo of her mom, blood haunting her memory. The trial, starting June 14, 2022, in Berrien County Courthouse, drew crowds. Prosecutor Stephen Pierre-Felice presented the DNA, the footprint, and Gillum's confession. The knife wounds, 4 inches deep, severing arteries, matched the blade type. Defense attorney Michael Corliss argued Gillum's drug use clouded his intent, but the jury, after 3 hours, convicted him on July 20th, 2022, of first-degree murder and criminal sexual conduct. Judge John Donahue sentenced him to life without parole, calling it a savage act. The courtroom, packed with Roxanne's family, erupted in sobs. Her son, now 46, clutching her old apron, found blood-free in evidence. Niles never recovered. The Tribune called it the kitchen murder, sparking fear in a town once safe. A memorial bench for Roxanne, placed outside Mr. Doan's in 2023, bears her name. Flowers left weekly. Terry, now sober, visits daily, the blood on the kitchen floor etched in his mind. The case, featured on Cold Justice in 2022, showed DNA's power, solving a 35-year mystery. Gillum, in Lakeland Correctional Facility, is a ghost to Niles. His crime a warning of drifters and drugs. The town, now 11,000, added streetlights, police patrols, but the scar remains. Roxanne's laugh gone, her blood grim memory. As this stain of violence fades, another shadow creeps in a distant beach town. On a hot July afternoon in 2003, in Clear Lake City, Texas, a quiet suburb of Houston with 40,000 people, 17-year-old Christine Paolilla walked up to a house on Millbridge Drive, her boyfriend Christopher Snyder, 20, at her side. Born March 31, 1986, in Long Island, New York, Christine was a shy teen with alopecia, her baldness hidden by wigs, her face often caked with messy makeup. Once bullied at Clear Lake High School, she'd been transformed by her friends Rachel Coloradis and Tiffany Rowell, both 18, who taught her to style her wigs and apply makeup, earning her the title Miss Irresistible in 2003. But beneath her new confidence, jealousy festered, fueled by her rocky relationship with Snyder, a drug addict with a felony record for car theft. That day, July 18th, they carried a 9mm pistol and a .38 caliber revolver, planning a robbery that turned into a brutal massacre, leaving 4 young friends dead, blood soaking the living room, and a community shattered. Christine, in a baggy t-shirt and jeans, knocked on the door of Tiffany's house, a single-story home with beige siding. Inside, Tiffany, born in 1985, a lively blonde who loved parties, sat on the couch with her boyfriend, Marcus Priscilla, 19, born in 1984, a small-time drug dealer with a quick smile. Rachel, born in 1985, a bright girl planning for college, laughed with them, while Marcus's cousin, Adalbert Sanchez, 21st, born in 1982, who'd moved to Clear Lake to escape violence, sprawled in a chair. The air smelled of weed, music playing low. Christine and Snyder, invited over, acted friendly at first, but Snyder's eyes were hard, his hands twitchy from cocaine. The plan was to steal Marcus's drug stash, but things spiraled fast. Snyder pulled the .38 revolver, pointing it at Marcus, demanding the drugs. Marcus, caught off guard, raised his hands, his voice shaking. "Take it, man. It's in the back." Tiffany screamed, her hands clutching the couch, as Christine, her face blank, drew the 9mm. Before Marcus could move, Snyder shot him in the chest, the bullet ripping through, blood spraying the wall, his body slumping, blood pooling under him. Tiffany lunged to protect Marcus, but Snyder fired again, hitting her in the groin, blood gushing onto her shorts, her screams piercing as she fell back, clutching her stomach. Christine, her hands trembling, shot Adalbert in the head, the bullet cracking his skull, blood splattering the chair, his body jerking before going still. Rachel, frozen in horror, tried to run, but Christine fired, hitting her in the back, blood staining her shirt, her legs buckling. Rachel, crawling toward the phone, blood dripping from her wounds, gasped, "Christine, why are you doing this?" Christine, her eyes cold, didn't answer. She grabbed the revolver from Snyder and smashed it into Rachel's head, the butt cracking her skull, blood matting her hair, her body twitching as she choked on blood. Christine hit her again, 5 times, blood splattering the carpet. Rachel's face caved in, her breathing stopped. The room was a slaughterhouse. Blood soaked the couch, walls, and floor. bullet casings scattered, the air thick with gunpowder and death. Marcus had 6 bullet wounds, blood seeping from his chest and arms. Tiffany had 4, her groin wound bleeding heavily, her hands limp. Adalbert's head wound left blood trickling down his face. Rachel, shot 12 times and bludgeoned, lay in a pool of blood, her skull shattered. Snyder, wiping blood from his hands, grabbed a bag of weed and pills from Marcus's room. Christine, her shirt speckled with Rachel's blood, stood frozen, the 9mm still in her hand. They fled in Snyder's beat-up Chevy, blood on their shoes, driving to a nearby Walgreens where Christine, shaking, clocked in for her makeup counter shift an hour later, her face pale under the store light. Police arrived at the house by 4:00 p.m., called by a neighbor who heard shots. Houston Police Detective Andrew Taravella, shocked, described the scene as pure rage. Blood covered the living room, pools under Marcus and Tiffany, splatters on the walls, Rachel's body a mess of wounds, blood caked in her hair. The coroner, Dr. Roger Milton, noted multiple gunshot wounds, Rachel's skull fractures, and blood loss as the cause of death for all 4. Police found no fingerprints, only neighbor descriptions of a young couple leaving the house, blood on their clothes. Clear Lake, a middle-class suburb, real. The Houston Chronicle called it the Clear Lake Massacre, printing photos of Tiffany and Rachel smiling at prom. Rachel's father, George Coloradus, posted $100,000 reward flyers, his face grim on ABC 13 News, saying, "Someone knows who did this." Marcus' mother, Teresa Priscilla, wept at a vigil, holding his old baseball cap, blood haunting her dreams. Adalbert's sister, Maria, spoke of his fresh start, cut short. The community, 200,000 strong in Greater Houston, locked doors. Parents kept teens home. Police, led by Detective Marshall Nelson, chased 300 tips, suspecting a drug hit since Marcus sold weed, but leads fizzled. Christine, back at school, avoided friends, her grades slipping, her wig crooked. Snyder, arrested for shoplifting in October 2003, drifted to Kentucky, jailed for car theft in 2004, leaving Christine alone. Christine, spiraling into cocaine and heroin, dropped out of school in 2004, never graduating despite walking at the ceremony. She entered rehab in Kerrville, Texas, meeting Stanley Justin Rott, a 24-year-old heroin addict born in 1979. They married in March 2005, using her $360,000 trust fund from her father's death to buy a condo in San Antonio. On July 18, 2005, the murder's second anniversary, Christine watched a KTRK TV report showing suspect sketches, her and Snyder's faces drawn from neighbor accounts. Panicking, she confessed to Rott, sobbing, "It was me and Chris. We killed them." Her voice shook, describing the blood, Rachel's pleas, the pistol whipping. Rott, stunned, urged her to hide. What? They moved to a San Antonio motel, living off drugs. The room littered with 70 heroin vials, dog feces, and needles, blood stains on Christine's old clothes. In July 2006, an anonymous tipster, not Rott, police later confirmed, called Crime Stoppers, detailing the murders, including Rachel's crawl to the phone, a fact only the killers knew. Houston police tracked Christine to the motel, arresting her on July 19, 2006. Her face gaunt, track marks on her arm. Rott, arrested for drug possession, told police Christine's confession, repeating her story of the robbery gone wrong, the blood, and Rachel's beat. Christine, interrogated by Detective Brian Harris, denied everything at first, blaming Snyder, but admitted her role, claiming, "He made me shoot." Snyder traced to South Carolina, learned of the warrant, and fled into woods near Greenville. Near Greenville? Swallowing pills and soda, dying by suicide on July 15, 2006. His body found with blood from an overdose, leaving Christine to face charges alone. As this bloodshed dims, another terror stirs in a distant town. The trial began October 6, 2008, in Harris County's 351st District Court, drawing crap. Prosecutor Rob Fryer presented the tip, Rott's testimony, and neighbor sketches matching Christine. Blood on her stored clothes, though degraded, suggested Rachel's DNA. Christine's defense, led by attorney Michael DeJuran, claimed her confession came from heroin withdrawal, but the jury didn't buy it. On October 13th, after 5 hours, they convicted her of 4 counts of capital murder. Judge Ellis sentenced her to life, sparing her the death penalty since she was 17 at the time. Christine wept, saying, George Coloradus, in court, clutched Rachel's photo, blood in his memory, saying, "She was my world." Tiffany's mother, Ann Rowell, held her daughter's necklace, tears falling. The Chronicle detailed the horror. Tiffany and Adalbert shot on the couch. Blood pooling. Marcus hit 6 times. Blood on the walls. Rachel's 12 wounds and crushed skull. Blood soaking the carpet. Appeals in 2008 and 2011, claiming high bail and coerced confession, failed. The Houston Court of Appeals affirming her guilt. Christine, now 38, sits in the Christina Melton Crane unit in Gatesville, Texas, eligible for parole in 2046 at 60. The case on 2020 and forensic files shocked Houston. George Coloradus's billboards offering rewards helped crack the case. Clear Lake added cameras, but trust faded. Parents watched teens closer, the community scarred. Rachel and Tiffany's prom photos, once joyful, now sit at a memorial bench on Millbridge Drive. Flowers left monthly blood, a haunting echo